Hey guys, welcome back to Doc Oil Talks Comics, and tonight we're going to go into a little bit of a deeper dive of this massive omnibus that I got this week. This is the J.M. DeMatteis and Sal Buscema Spectacular Spider-Man omnibus. Like I said last night on the previous video, then this book covers issues 178 through 216 and annuals 12 through 14, and it also opens with Amazing Spider-Man Soul of the Hunter. So you've got one massive book with this awesome spine, and then when you go to pull the slipcase off of it, gentle with you. Or we'll come, you want to come loose. Alright, then you have this awesome wraparound of a Sal Buscema Spidey in action. So I always liked that part of the artwork, where Sal would start with him moving, and as you move along, then you get to see him, and then he becomes full color. So what do you get in this book? You get a table of contents with a picture of Spidey right there, right at the end of The Child Within from issue 183. And then you open up with Spider-Man Soul of the Hunter, and this is a companion piece to Kraven's Last Hunt. So you start with that, and it's got art by Mike Zeck and Bob McLeod, and you get to have a deeper psychological dive into the whole Kraven the Hunter and Kraven's Last Hunt, his thought process, how he felt, where he was at mentally. And you also get to see how Peter is dealing or not dealing with being buried alive. I mean, how would you deal with something like that? Wouldn't that be traumatic, and you would have PTSD for the rest of your life? You know, so just because he's a superhero doesn't mean that he's not going to have these same issues and these same problems. You know, he's not going to, unfortunately, in the words of Todd McFarlane, he's not going to rise above it all. That's not what he's going to always do. He's always going to have struggles, and he's going to fight, and then he's going to, he's going to have to deal with Kraven. And that's not why we're here, though. We're here to see, let's see, where does it begin? We're 53 pages in. And here we have the first issue of the run with Sal Buscema on cover artwork and J.M. DeMatteis doing the words. And it says, where Kraven's Last Hunt left off, Vermin's Hunt begins. So I always thought that was cool, because Kraven's Last Hunt was one of my favorite stories of all time, and still is. So if you're going to have a successor to that, and you're going to have our pal Sal doing the artwork on that, it's just, what I can't get over is I remember reading these books when they were brand new, and I can't get over how great the colors are and how the presentation is. So you get to see all of this action with Spidey. Sal was always excellent with him web swinging across New York City. It's the total package, guys. This is an awesome omnibus, and I can't wait to sit down and read it. Now, this cover right here, I'll say this, has always blown my mind, because if you look at the line work on Sal's inking of himself, that Spider-Man, the line work right here on the leg, on the arm, it doesn't really match up with what you got going on with Venom. That looks very much like a Sal Buscema line as opposed to the Spider-Man. So I always wondered, you know, if it had been a rush job or if he had had somebody ink that particular cover, but it was all Sal all the time. And you get to see all of these adult themes. Vermin's father did unspeakable horrors to him, and that's where Vermin came from. That's what I've always loved about DeMatteis and his writing, is the psychological aspect of it. I mean, I'm a student of psychology. So you have to get into the story, and you see where Spider-Man says, you know, I'm not gonna let you hurt me. I'm not gonna let you bury me like Kraven did. And then he just swings and swings and swings on Vermin until Dr. Kafka says, stop. This is not what you're here for. So I'm not going to go through this whole story, but if you've never read The Child Within, it truly is an excellent psychological thriller between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin, Harry Osborn, and Peter Parker, and then Vermin, who's kind of thrown into the middle of everything. But I tell you what, the one thing that you can count on, the one thing you can always count on, is the action sequences from Sal. He will throw those bodies like a rag doll. It's like he's got one of those wooden statuettes that he can just pose in any which way. You know, you get the Randy Orton pose, or if you want him to go flying back when somebody hits him, those speed lines, they just give you, nobody can throw a punch like our pal Sal. That's the main thing of it, is that nobody can throw a punch like him, whether it's Spider-Man or it's in a Hulk book or wherever you may find it. Nobody can throw a punch quite like him. So you get the finale of The Child Within, followed up by an aftermath issue. And Dr. Kafka is trying to rehabilitate Vermin and try to get to the core of his pain and his suffering and his anger and help him become a better person. After that, you jump into a wild, wacky story with all of these crazy characters like the White Rabbit. And then you've had Grim and Gritty, okay? And it said it at the end of issue 184, which was the aftermath issue of The Child Within. And it said, okay, look, we've had 7 months of Grim and Gritty, now let's go and have some fun. So that's what they did the next issue. Then after that, you kind of get back to the Grim and Gritty for a little bit with 3-part funeral arrangements with the Vulture. And the Vulture is dying. And you've never really seen the Vulture at his truly worst until you see him just drop a dude off a building. I love the colors in this book. I love the presentation. Let's go a little bit further here. There's some more of Sal's artwork with him just waylaying. You got the Green Goblin waylaying the Molten Man, which he shouldn't be able to do, which is what Spider-Man says. And you get Spidey and Harry Osborn just going at it. And again, Harry's never been a physical match for Spider-Man, but he took an experimental serum. It caused him to become more powerful, even though it also caused him to become crazier. And eventually Spider-Man says, I've had enough. And I know I keep going back to this, but to see this in an oversized format and get to see these colors and these white pages like they were when they were brand new is blowing my mind. Then you get this Charles Vess double page painting from way back then. Hey, Alex Ross is not the only cat in town. Charles Vess was doing this sort of stuff way back in the 80s before Alex Ross had really taken a foothold. Well, actually, That one was in 92. So Alex Ross was around, but he hadn't done Marvels or anything like that just yet. So, let's see. You get to see Puma. Now, I'm going to show you guys one of my favorite, hands down, favorite covers. I don't know why. I just like the colors on this. I like how it's lighter and then it fades into black at the top. And then you've got this really powerful looking Spider-Man holding Puma up above his head like he's about to just bring him down on his back like Bane and just crush him. So issue 193 has always been one of my favorite Sal Buscema covers of all time. Let's see. And here is one of the most heartfelt Spider-Man stories that's ever been printed. It's amazing, spectacular Spider-Man issue 200 with the final fight between Peter Parker and Harry Osborn as Spider-Man and Green Goblin. And in the end, it's a redemption arc for Harry. It doesn't look like that at the very beginning, but eventually you get to see that Harry is still the man that Peter loved as far as being friends. It was his best friend. And Harry could never get over the fact that he knew that Peter had killed his father. But really, Norman had done himself in because of his evil tendencies. He let his mania take over, and he got so focused on killing Spider-Man that he ended up killing himself. But in the end, Harry is a hero. And it's one of those books that will really bring a tear to your eye if you've got history with these characters. The way that Sal, there's no words. The way that Sal just shows in the ambulance and you can just hear Peter saying, "It's okay, Harry, it's gonna be okay." And it's almost like he's apologizing to Peter, saying, "I'm sorry, you've always been my friend and you've always been a good friend." And then he passes away in the ambulance. And then you get to see Mary Jane, and Peter has to be the one to tell her that their friend is gone, that Harry is no more. And then to finish off the J.M. DeMatteis written portion of the book, then we get the Maximum Carnage parts, including, I think at the end of this, you get, yep. So Peter is busted up, broken. His allies are laid out by their side, and he's crawling towards the camera. And in the end, you get this awesome double-page spread, which, Sal was known for drawing the Avengers and drawing Captain America as well. And Cap just gives him a hand, and he says, "Looks like you could use a hand. Looks like you could use it." And the power and the majesty behind that, it can't be overstated. It's such an iconic image of Peter reaching for help. And Captain America is right there when you need him, like the big brother that he is, like the father figure. Let's see. So you've got, this is Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 13, and it was written by DeMatteis as well. And there's 4 different stories in this particular annual, and DeMatteis wrote 3 of them. So you get, let's see. Oh, this was a Death by Tombstone. I thought it was Death of Tombstone back in the day when I first read it. And I was like, well, Tombstone looks pretty healthy to me. And, but here you get one of my favorite panels of all time. It is a, let's see, where did it go? Tombstone's just tearing through everybody and having a good time of it. So you get Tombstone at the beginning of 205 with Flash Thompson. And Flash Thompson says, no, you can't steal this ambulance. And he says, you know, the only way I'm going to let you steal this ambulance. And Tombstone says, go ahead and say it, punk, over your dead body. Now, Flash used to be, you know, he was a football star. And Tombstone, he says it's more than a name, it's a promise. And he says, you can't scare Flash Thompson with talk. I can take care of myself. I boxed in high school. So he takes a swing at Tombstone, and Tombstone just absolutely just hammers him right in the chest. And he swings again, and Tombstone comes at him again with just a massive, just fist. And he was just about to finish him off, and Spidey happens to swing by. But you get to see all of this power, and all of the proportions are just extra-sized. And you get to see exactly how much Sal and J.M. DeMatteis love these characters, how important they are to them. Now see, this is where it gets a little bit weaker in my opinion, because Sal is, I don't know that Sal was really loving everything at that moment, because you've got this issue, what was it, 207, and it's got the Shroud, and it's written by Stephen Grant with art by Sal Buscema and letters by Joe Rosen and colorist Bob Sharon. But if you go and you look at the hairlines, if you look at the line work of Spider-Man, you look at the facial expressions, it's kind of like Sal had an off month, and instead of doing the exacting line work and detail, he was just kind of filling in and doing shading and shadows. And I remember getting these 3 books with the Shroud, and it was never a dull moment. But at the same time, you could kind of tell that Sal was getting a little bit burned out because his line work was not the same. It was not the same. And it's not that he did anything differently himself. It was just that he kind of needed a break. And I don't know if it was he needed a break because he penciled this title from issue 134 all the way, I believe, to let's see, what was it? 213, 214, what was it? All right, there's 211. He seems to have kind of gotten his groove back, although you can still tell that some of these lines are just a lot more quickly shaded. 212. And you still get an insane level of detail. But see here, you've got Typhoid Mary coming back, and that's actually the first issue, 213, since issue 134 that Sal had taken off an issue. And so Typhoid Mary's coming back, and you've got Ann Nocenti stepping in as writer with James Fry III doing the pencils. And even then, it still says Sal Buscema and Ramos inks. So even then, he couldn't completely let go of the title. He wanted to make sure that something of his style was still on the title for point of continuity. Because when you have been the artist on a title like that for so long, you don't want somebody else to come in with a totally different color, a different inking style, and just completely blow it away. Well, the next issue, you've got James Fry and then Rodney Ramos, Kay Williams, and M. Higgins as inkers. So with 214, Sal did actually step away for the entirety of that issue. Let's see. All right, so he comes back with 215. Well, actually, that's the annual number 14. And this was breakdowns by Sal Buscema and finishes by Jerry Bingham. So he worked on that title, but it gets a little bit scratchier. Well, when you get to the last two issues, let's see, we're still going through the annual here. All right, so when you get to 215, The Predator and the Prey, part 1 of 2, which is the next to last issue in this book, then you get Sal coming back as full artist. But I don't know if you can tell or not. But look at the sketchiness, how heavy the shadows are on that particular book. I don't want to disparage Sal at all. He's one of my favorite Spider-Man artists, and it was amazing that he did practically a 100-issue run. It's amazing that he was able to do that. He didn't leave until issue 239, I believe. But you could tell that he was getting tired of doing a monthly book in and out. And the thing that you have to think about is he inked his own stuff each and every month. It wasn't that he just penciled 100 issues. He penciled and he inked his own artwork. So to see somebody with his age at that point, and he was still able to bring such power and such story to the world of Spider-Man and the characters. It was just crazy to see that. It was crazy to see that. So, guys, I hope that my love for this book and my love for the creators that were in this book shone through in this video, because to me, this is one of the best runs at Marvel that had, up until this point, never been collected. So I am extremely ecstatic and happy to see Sal and JM get their fair share and get their due. And I would love to see some of the rest, if not the rest of this entire run, collected in omnibus form. You've got the Senator earlier on with Peter David. You've got a ton of different stuff on Spec Spidey. And to me, at one point, especially during this Kraven's Last Hunt post-world, where you've got Vermin's Hunt, you get The Child Within, that book to me was better than Amazing at that time. It was stronger, it was a stronger book, and it was the better book. So if you guys get the opportunity to pick one of these up at your shop, please do. If you've never read these stories before, you shouldn't be afraid of the price tag. You shouldn't be afraid of the thickness of it. You know, Spidey would be proud of you because you can use this and hit a burglar in the head with it and probably cause some cranial damage. So Like I said, guys, you can't wipe the smile off my face, and I can't wait to go back and reread The Child Within in this oversized, blown up format. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you do, hit me in the comments and let me know what you thought. And hit that like and subscribe so that we can keep bringing you more content just like this. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful Thursday and a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll catch you in the next video.